Elon Musk is stepping down as head of Twitter in the coming weeks. The chief twit made the announcement yesterday, quote, "Excited to announce that I've hired a new CEO for Twitter. She will be starting in about 6 weeks. My role will transition to being executive chair and CTO, overseeing product, software, and systems operations." The Wall Street Journal reports that Musk has picked NBC Universal advertising chief Linda Yaccarino to fill the top spot.
Yaccarino interviewed Musk last month, and they discussed balancing advertiser interests and free speech on the platform. Let's watch.
It is important that, if I were to say, yes, you can influence me, that would be wrong. That would be very wrong. Because that would be a diminishment of freedom of speech.
But I want to be specific about influencing. It's more of an open feedback loop for the advertising experts in this room to help develop Twitter into a place where they will be excited about investing more money. Product development, ad safety, content moderation. That's what the influence is.
Yeah, I think it's totally cool to say that you want to have your advertising appear in certain places in Twitter and not in other places. But it is not cool to try to say what Twitter will do. And if that means losing advertising dollars, we lose it. But freedom of speech is paramount.
Now, according to Yaccarino's LinkedIn profile, she's also served as chairman of the World Economic Forum's Task Force on Future of Work and sits on the WEF's Media, Entertainment, and Culture Industry Governors Steering Committee. So I'm actually seeing some consternation about this selection, both from the kind of very, very conservative right and also some liberal people, because apparently she follows many conservative or just like non-liberal accounts, which I guess is like guilty of some thought crime. But from the right perspective, a concern that this is someone who might rein in Musk's stated commitments to free speech in favor of an outlook that is more, how do we lure back advertisers? Does that mean, throttling content that they don't want, that makes advertisers uncomfortable? That was the reason they left the site in the first place. So, Amber, you seem a little concerned.
Yes, I am concerned. Just reading through some of her bio information and some of the initiatives she's been a part of, it seems like she's really focused on this DEI monster, the diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense. She's a believer in the gender pay gap. She has advocated for having journalism being filled with 50% women and 50% people of color. So, Robbie, I guess you would be out of a job under Linda Yaccarino's rules for media outlets moving forward. But I think that this will be very interesting to see what happens, because Elon has obviously made it clear that he's interested in better monetizing Twitter and the content that goes on it. So perhaps that ad revenue is kind of enticing to him. But I appreciate that during that interview, he said that he was still committed to the idea of free speech. And he said in a tweet after this news broke, so presumably he was responding to it, "The commitment to open source transparency and accepting a wide range of viewpoints remains unchanged." So let's hope that's the case, because I think that without Twitter, there's not really another platform that has allowed freedom of expression that reaches both sides of the aisle.
Elon is such a jokester that I was half expecting, when I saw this tweet from him yesterday, that it was going to be like, then he was going to follow up with like a picture of him with like a wig photoshopped on and like, Elon Musk is now running the company or something. What do you think, Jessica?
Yeah, I would have loved that. That was a hilarious meme. It was, Elon with a wig, basically. But I'm not super worked up about this. I'm not surprised either. I don't think it's controversial that she was someone who recognized that women are making 83 cents to men making $1. I don't think it's controversial that she likes DEI. I can see how that would frustrate Elon's base, but I don't think that's something that would make her, ill-equipped to be the CEO of Twitter. I think it's unfortunate how much control these CEOs have. And of course, they can exert some political influence when you run media companies, as she, I'm sure, has been at NBC. But for me, I think this is something that's, great for Twitter, because I think Elon has turned the place into a disaster. Do I see that really turning itself around? No, because many CEOs have a vested interest in making sure the companies do well economically. But when you get into the space of Twitter and media companies, I think folks really care about the political impact of how these websites are used. And I think that might be a part of her motivation in wanting a CEO position. So we'll see what happens on Twitter. But I don't think a lot's going to change.
Yeah, I mean, if she brings some balance, because, I don't know, we might disagree on, so I agree that Twitter is not in good shape. We might disagree on exactly what's wrong with it, but like it actually doesn't seem to have improved that much to me since Elon took over. I like a lot of the things he says about it being a place for free speech, but then he's like personally adjudicating moderation decisions. Like I'll see accounts of like, why is this down, Elon? And then he'll be like looking into it. Like that is obviously not a sustainable content moderation model. So, and also I don't want Twitter, as much as I enjoy it, like it's not, I don't think it's important. Maybe I don't even think it's as important as Elon thinks it is, especially compared to his other projects of like, starting a colony on Mars. Like, let's not suck all of his time into running one of a handful of social media companies. So, I don't. What do you think about that, Amber? Is like handing off responsibility a better use of his time? I think it might be.
I mean, yes, probably. I guess the issue is more just with this particular choice, because typically when we see someone who is really invested in this idea of gender and race, they tend to elevate that over meritocracy, and they tend to be interested in protecting those marginalized groups from offense over preferring free speech. And so I just don't know that her vision and Elon Musk's are aligned. But I do think Twitter is really important. I mean, just from a media perspective, it seems like it's certainly overtaken Facebook in terms of its ability to drive traffic to news sources. A lot of people say that they get their news from Twitter. And when you have an ecosystem that prior to Elon Musk was censoring news like the Hunter Biden laptop story, it was preventing people from saying factually true statements about the vaccines and about COVID that just weren't politically popular at the time. I think that's a huge problem and something that Elon's been, I guess, trying to address. But I agree, Robbie, it hasn't really gotten to the right phase just yet.
Jessica, what do you think has gone wrong with Twitter?
I mean, Elon's just not a great businessman, right? He's been the CEO of companies before and has been attempted to be pushed out by the board of the companies that he's been on, namely the merger with PayPal. They really did not want him in there. They said the company was going to go bankrupt, and then they pushed him out. And so I think he probably would have continued to tank Twitter if he remained CEO. And I think he posted the tweet, "Please vote if you want me to stay CEO or not," on Twitter, because he knew people would say no, and it gave him an easy way out.
I voted no because he needs to spend more time building rockets.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what people are saying. He wants to go over to SpaceX and Tesla and save the world and blah, blah, blah. I'm not buying it. I'm really not. I'm also not concerned with someone who values diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. I don't think they're going to change the Twitter algorithm, right, to make it so that it favors people of color or women's tweets. She's someone who believes that there probably is a stigma, which I would agree with, when you're in the hiring process. There's definitely qualified candidates from a diverse background across race and gender that are intentionally excluded because of their identity by decision makers in the hiring process. It's not representative of a decline in meritocracy, but allowing those qualified candidates to have a chance where they otherwise wouldn't. Does Twitter's current makeup of Silicon Valley folks in that office reflect the American population? I'm not sure. I don't know who's staff at Twitter. Will changing that tank the company? I really don't think so. I think there's plenty of qualified people to run Twitter. And he's done a pretty substantive job in cutting a large proportion of the employees from Twitter. So I don't know how she's going to change the makeup there, but it's not signaling to me that the platform's going to get worse because of it.
All right, we'll have more Rising right after this. Stay with us.